Welcome to AI for Good, the leading, action-oriented, global and inclusive United Nations platform on AI. Organized by the International Telecommunication Union, the United Nations Agency for Digital Technologies, in partnership with 50+ UN sister organizations and co-convened with Switzerland. The goal of AI for Good is to unlock AI's potential to serve humanity. In today's AI for Good event, we are counting on you to use the live video wall feature to ask questions and post comments to help create an engaging discussion. We encourage you to stay until the end to chat, connect, ask questions, and network with our distinguished facilitators and world-class AI experts in the neural network. It is now time to kick off the session and welcome our first speaker. The floor is yours.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Quantum World Tour. For those of you who are just joining us, I'd love to take a moment to explain the vision behind the tour itself. So as most of us here understand, quantum doesn't just have the potential to change how we compute, it also changes how we coordinate. How do we set standards? Sorry for that interruption. I had some technical difficulties. So back to how do we train people? How do we align capital and connect laboratories to real problems? It moves the center of gravity from isolated development to systems that can carry them. So that is the essence of the Quantum World Tour. It's not just the summation of headlines, but we really want to do a study of architecture. How do countries move from aspiration to implementation, step by very intentional step? So today we turn to Brazil. Brazil is often introduced through scale, the geography, the population, the industries, but the more revealing story in terms of quantum is one of sequence, the order in which Brazil is assembling the pieces of quantum readiness. So Brazil has treated quantum as a priority for more than a few years now, placing it alongside AI, semiconductors, next-generation networks. This had the potential to unlock funding lines as well as other actors who had been strong in physics and engineering but needed a shared horizon. Then came centers and consortia. So a quantum technologies competence center hosted at Sinai Cimatec in Salvador was supported with public-private funding to do what good centers do, which is link government incentives to industry problems and train people as they build. In parallel, a National Institute of Science and Technology in Quantum Devices gathered dozens of researchers across multiple states to push on hardware, photonics, sensing, and metrology. These are really the substrates of the future quantum capability. Next, we can turn to the states and how they were involved. So for instance, the Sao Paulo Research Foundation launched QTIA, which is a targeted program to accelerate applications, support talent, and push research towards spinouts. Rio de Janeiro expanded a metropolitan quantum communication testbed, moving quantum key distribution from the whiteboard to fiber and free space links. And it's important to recognize that these are not just demonstrations for the sake of demonstration, but these really end up being practice fields for engineers, for regulators, for the operators, all of those key people who will have to run these systems for real. And then we can take a look at sovereignty. The federal government and state announced a plan to acquire and assemble a quantum computer with technology transfer in Campina Grande. Whether one agrees with every detail or not, the intent is clear that access matters. Nations that can compute, test, and train at home will move faster and negotiate better. Brazil has chosen to put that capacity firmly on its soil. And then we turn to standards. Brazil's standards body created a commission on quantum technologies and adopted a national edition of the ISO IEC vocabulary for quantum computing. While this may sound modest, it really isn't. Shared language is actually essential infrastructure that lets ministries procure, companies interoperate, and courts understand what they're looking at. So when we put all of these pieces together, we see a very clear picture of Brazil. We see foundational policy at the federal level. We see the execution hubs that mix public and private mandates. We see the state engines pushing programs where their strengths lie, and then we see sovereignty. All of these pieces come together to show that Brazil is choosing problems that fit its economy and its values. And none of this happens without people or in isolation. There's also a set of very great, strong universities that have been the backbone for decades. Brazil is also coordinating with international partners, both regionally and globally. So why does this matter for the tour? Because our purpose is to surface workable patterns. What are the moves that other nations can adapt to their own soil? Brazil's pattern is very instructive. Align policy early. Invest in competence centers that are porous to the industry. Let states play to their strengths. Anchor access to compute. And treat standards as infrastructure. Aim applications at the economy you already have in place. Through this, Brazil is organizing capacity. That is the difference between momentum and durability. And so with that, I'm very excited to welcome you to our first guest, who will give us more insight into the vision behind quantum in Brazil. So welcome Hamilton José Mendes da Silva, the Director at the Department of Incentives for Digital Technologies in the Ministry of Science, Technology, and Innovation in Brazil.
Thank you, Mrs. Paulina. Good morning, everyone. I am the Acting Secretary of Science and Technology for Digital Transformation at Ministry of Science and Technology and Innovation, MCTI in Brazil. And it's a pleasure to open this event promoted by ITU, which will provide an overview of the quantum technology ecosystem in Brazil. In this context, it's important to highlight that quantum technologies is a topic being prioritized in the Secretary's work, which materialized in the creation of a Brazilian initiative in quantum technologies called IB Quântica. The proposal aims to make the country a leader in quantum technology within 10 years, create the main innovation hub in Latin America for advancements in sensors, communications, and quantum computing, and fostering startups, attracting global investment and talent. Our program will develop advanced technologies for detection, security communication, and high complexity computing, relying on strong academic and industrial partnerships and collaborations to drive quantum innovation and industrialization. The key aspects of the program aim at scientific and technology development, human capital formation, promotion of innovation, and international competitiveness. Quantum technologies represent an important frontier in scientific and technological advancement. Investment in these fields allows Brazil to be at the forefront of knowledge and to have access to and leading role in these potential lucrative markets. It also has the potential to generate a significant economic impact, including the creation of skilled jobs, the strengthening of the technology and innovation sector, increased the competitiveness of Brazilian companies, including decision-making in the acquisition of these technologies from third parties. The new markets and products that may arise from these technologies should stimulate entrepreneurship in this sector. quantum technologies are gaining global prominence, and Brazil must keep pace to avoid falling behind in the technological race and economic returns of the sector. Developing expertise in this field can address a strategic economic challenges, such as increasing agricultural productivity with quantum sensors, strengthening scientific and economic progress. Furthermore, the increasing restrictions on technology exports by other countries highlight the urgence of autonomous technological base in Brazil. This field exemplifies the importance of the interinstitutional approach this issue demands, calling for an international relations agenda that restricts the country's access to the forefront of this technology. In order for these benefits to be achieved, quantum technology must be treated as a state policy, transcending specific governance and with short, medium, and long-term objectives. So the federal government is leading this initiative in an integrated manner, involving not only the Minister of Science and Technology and Innovation, MCTI, but also other ministers, such as Industry, Commerce, Communications, Energy, Health, Agriculture, Defense, and Education. And an interministerial governance committee is being created to ensure transparency and performance evaluation of the initiative, the involvement of funding and research agencies such as FINIP, BNDES, CNPq, and CAPES is essential to strengthen the local ecosystem, projecting human resources and local startups on the global stage. Establishing a dedicated multi-institutional center will enable leadership and coordination of the initiative. This center should integrate with existing ICTs, offer short and long-term visitor programs, and meet the needs of the scientific community in a way that complements the current infrastructure. This center will be virtual in nature and will be led by an institution selected from those with expertise in the area. It should play a crucial role in dialogue and attracting private sector investment, exploring not only human resources and services, but also stimulating technology transfer and entrepreneurship. Training, attracting, and retaining talent are central challenges. It's necessary to create attractive conditions for Brazilian researchers abroad, international talent, and professionals in training in Brazil, prioritizing qualification in quantum engineering. The structure of the quantum workplace has already been well defined by previous studies. Creating specific curricula and educational programs for quantum engineering is essential to meet the growing demand for qualified professionals and to position Brazil as a leader in this field. Therefore, preparing society for quantum technology is urgent. The International Year of Quantum Science and Technology, proclaimed by UNESCO in 2025, should be used to promote awareness and education campaigns with sustainable impacts over the years, stimulate demand through targeted public policies, such as encouraging the adoption of quantum cryptography in the financial sector and prioritizing national content are key strategies to foster new industrialization, aligned with the new Industry Brazil and IB, and create high-quality jobs in the country. Establishing centers of competence in other enable technology areas is a clear path that is already being adopted to accelerate national development. Encouraging the creation of startups and deep web development, tech should be strategic in accelerating innovation in the sector. Market creation policies and financial incentives can enable the emergence and growth of these initiatives. The development of quantum technologies depends on an industry of semiconductors, photonic devices, optical communications, and advanced materials. A robust quantum initiative requires the parallel development of these sectors. Brazilian diplomats should play an active role in establishing bilateral and multilateral partnerships, both with Latin America countries and with global centers of excellence, to ensure access to resources, technology, and know-how. So the proposed public and private investment amounts to almost $1 billion over 10 years, place Brazil in the middle tier of countries in the global quantum investment landscape. Of this amount, 50% should be directed towards infrastructure through the creation of quantum devices and other enabling technologies, such as semiconductors and photonics. The remainder will be directed towards training and capacity building and research and development in quantum communication, sense, and quantum processing. It's also important to highlight that several investments are already underway or awaiting approval. For example, Laboratory of Quantum Technologies of the Brazilian Center for Physics Research, CBPF, CNPq, MCTI, public calls for quantum technologies. FAPEST Center, regional institution of the state of São Paulo for quantum technologies. Acquisition of a Chinese-made quantum computer with technical support and technology transfer. A partnership between the MCTI and the government of Paraíba State. And plus, a FAB quantum device factory that is planned to be located at CNPM. And finally, advanced investment on development of advanced inertial navigation system with quantum sensors. A project led by two important universities in Brazil, UFPA and Unicamp. Thank you again for the invitation, and I wish everyone a great event.
Thank you so much, Hamilton, for that very powerful and comprehensive introduction to Brazil's vision. You've really painted a clear picture of how Brazil is approaching quantum technology, not just as this isolated research frontier, but really as a state policy that links ministries, industries, and institutions. Also, the emphasis on quantum engineering and education and the return on talent really highlights that this is truly a generational project. So thank you again for setting the stage. I'm really excited now to move on to our next segment, which will look closely at how that vision is put into practice. So how Brazil's policies are translating into research programs, into startups and new collaborations that are actively shaping the country's place in the global quantum economy. So it's my pleasure to welcome our panelists. First, we have Antonio Abelém, professor at the Federal University of Pará, and then Renato Portugal, a full researcher at the National Laboratory of Scientific Computing. So welcome to both of you.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Do we have you both?
Hi everyone.
Hello.
It's a pleasure to be here. I believe I might be the only engineer on the panel, not a physicist, except of course for Hamilton. Well, I'd like to start mention that Brazil has a continental scale and in regional asymmetries. These characteristics create both challenges, a lot of challenges, and opportunities. For example, connecting across remote regions drive innovation in quantum communications network, especially where satellite or long-distance fiber links can connect, for example, research institutions in Amazon and across the country. And moreover, Brazil's diverse academy network from UFPA, University Federal of Pará, in the north, to USP, UFABC, and Unicamp in the southeast, for example, foster complementary expertise that strengthen collaboration and ecosystem building. So I think it's important that we can prioritize some aspects. Hamilton mentioned some of them. For example, it's very important human capital and training. We need scaling up graduate and postdoctoral programs, attracting early careers research and creating targets fellowship to build a skilled workforce for quantum research and development. It's very important also infrastructure and test beds. We need support the creation and interconnection of open test beds, optical fiber, satellite links, lab infrastructure to enable research in quantum communication, sensing, and computing. Other aspect very important is security and standard readiness, advancing research of quantum safe communications, TKD, for example, and engaging in standard and international forum is very important. Of course, industry engagement and translation. First, the academy industry partnership, MBRP units and startups to move prototypes toward applications in health, for example, in material, in telecoms. And of course, regional inclusion and coordination. It's very important align states program. For example, FAPESP, UTA, joint with FAPERJ calls. It's very important also that other regions in Brazil can cooperate in this kind of initiative with a national prioritize. So this is very important. I also would like to highlight Brazil is already seeing concrete quantum technology projects that connect research excellence with societal challenges, especially in areas such as healthcare, security, and industry. One example is the Einstein Global Advanced Technology and Equity initiative that explored how quantum computing can support biomedical research and health equity. The Senai Cimatec in Bahia, recognized as a Embrapa Competence Center in Quantum Technology, has been advancing in industrial and applied research in quantum sensing, communications, and computing. We have also Brazil Innovations Ecosystem includes some startups such as Quantum Wise, Venturus, Doublet, which are developed software, AI integration, and simulation platform for quantum application. More recently, we have a public call for digital health collaboration network programs with NLP. So I think we have interesting, exciting examples on going in quantum technology. I would like to also mention sorry. Oops. So I'd like to also mention that the ecosystem in Brazil is still emerging. So we have we need robust and consistent financial support, not for a 1 year, but for a decade, that can improve this research, stimulate the translation to prototypes to solutions. And I think this is a very important support that we need, especially in software, AI integration, and security solutions. So this is what my comments for the moment.
Thank you so much for sharing, Antonio. I really think that this emphasis on infrastructure, on open test beds, fiber networks, shared laboratories, on converging with other technologies like AI and semiconductors, I think this is really important. So before we get into the rest of the panel questions, I'd love to ask you and Renato each, if you'll each take a moment to answer this question. For you personally, what is it that you would like quantum to do for your country, for Brazil?
Okay. Well, here, what I understand, what I mentioned, the main challenge here for next decade in Brazil will be scaling from academy prototypes to operational systems. So insurance continuing investment in training and retail a high quality workforce capable of driving innovation in quantum technology is very important. So developing this talent pipeline from undergraduate and to postgraduate, postdoctoral levels, I already mentioned, requiring sustained national programs, interdisciplinary curricula, and strong connections between university, research institutes, and industry. I am a professor at Federal University of Pará, so I think this is the main contribution that the university in this moment can offer. Of course, we also would like to, the way forward lies in open testbed, international collaboration, and cross-sector initiative that foster both technological maturity and human capital development.
Absolutely. And that makes a lot of sense. I know that scaling the technology from prototypes to operational systems, as well as needing the talent to support, are definitely challenges that we're seeing on a global level. Absolutely. And then, Renato, I'd love to ask you, what would you like quantum to do for your country?
Let me know how long may I speak? How many minutes?
Yeah, so we have a few more questions to get through. So I don't know, about 2 minutes or so.
Yeah, because I would like to tell a little bit about the quantum computing in the research units of MCTI in Brazil. If you allow me, I need a little bit, something like 5 minutes. So the main research units in Brazil of MCTI are LNCC, the National Laboratory of Scientific Computing, CBPF, Brazilian Center for Physics Research, and CNPEM for Materials, Nanotech, Quantum Enabling Infrastructure. So I am a researcher at LNCC, and LNCC performs research on quantum computing. It is an institute located at the city of Petrópolis, close to Rio de Janeiro, and it hosts the largest supercomputer for academic application here in Brazil. The research are on scientific computing, computational modeling, and it includes quantum computing, mainly on the software part. So we develop software and algorithms for quantum computing here at this institute. And also quantum machine learning software related. It is a team of about 6 researchers. I am the head of this group. And our main project now is a project called Quantum Machine Learning in Hybrid Architectures, with support from Petrobras. So the objective is to optimize geophysical data processing workflows using hybrid quantum classical architectures. It is going to last 4 years, and the budget is around $2 million US. With TRL, the technology level, about 4. So this is one of the main projects in my institute here, and the institute has an Atos quantum learning machine called QLM. It is installed here, and so we are able to do high-performance simulation for quantum computing. It simulates up to 38 qubits with GPU acceleration. It is used for research and training. So we do have other projects. I do not have time for explain all of them, but let's move on. Let me know your next question.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing more about the projects that are being worked on. Before we move on to the questions around more of the vision, I did want to ask you a question about the project you mentioned. So on developing the quantum classical hybrid, architectures for geophysical data processing, I'm curious to know what drew you to this specific application area. Is this related to Brazil specifically, or just a scientific challenge that felt uniquely solvable?
Yeah, this was a call by Petrobras, the main oil company here in Brazil, that put 3 major calls on quantum technologies. One for quantum machine learning applied to oil exploration, another one on quantum computing for oil exploration, and a third one about quantum communications for oil exploration. My group won that call on quantum machine learning for oil exploration. So the problem was posed by Petrobras. And we are going to solve the problem that they asked for. And the idea is to take those geophysical data and analyze them not only using classical computing, but also using quantum computing. So it's a hybrid method to deal with those huge data that comes from oil exploration.
Fantastic. Okay, that's really interesting. Antonio, did you have something you wanted to add to that?
Yes. I just would like to comment that here at Federal University of Pará, researching quantum computing and communication is advancing through interdisciplinary collaboration that brings computer science, physics, and network engineering. And a leading role is played by the Computer Networks and Multimedia Communication Group, GERCOM, that's the group what I'm working on, and which this group which develops studies in simulations focused on quantum networks, quantum key distributions, and network security. GERCON also explored the integration of artificial intelligence and program network to improve quantum resilience in quantum communications environment, contribute to national efforts, of course, toward the future country Internet Brazil. We have we now nowadays we have cooperations with two startups, Quantum Wise and Ventures, and also they present some problem to us, and we are working together to improve and to create creative solutions for them.
That's awesome. And I have a similar question for you. I'd also like to know more about how your group was motivated to focus specifically on quantum network simulation as well as quantum key distribution. What led to that decision for that focal point?
Well, we start using simulators that were developed in the world, but we also start to create some programs, some little programs that to use specific questions. But we also work with simulator risk of IBM's simulators, and we're using also Amazon simulators and this kind of that.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing more.
NetSquid is also our other simulator that we are using.
Okay, awesome. I'd love to kind of move into a little bit beyond the research. So I'm curious to know from both of you, I know, Antonio, you mentioned some spin-outs too, but I'd love to know about the active efforts there are to encourage startups and commercialization in Brazil's quantum space. And then what roles do you think universities play in supporting quantum entrepreneurship?
Okay, I can start here. My institute is not a university, it's a research center linked with the Ministry of Science and Technology and Innovation. So it's not mandatory to give classes, undergraduate classes, so only graduation classes. And here we have incubation of new enterprises, and the institute put money to create those new enterprises based on technology. Currently, we are starting a small company linked with quantum, related with quantum software. So our expertise here is quantum software and simulation, and the development of quantum software for a diverse number of applications. So I mentioned the application for oil, but we are developing also application of quantum machine learning for drug designs. The institute is basically for research and applied research, but we do an effort to reach startups and the final consumer via startups, in fact. So all of those are, in fact, in the beginning. We still do not have concrete examples of solutions, but we are moving toward this direction.
Hi, here at Federal University of Pará, we have a Science and Technology Park called Guamá. And through this park, we establish collaboration with startups, and also we stimulate the creation of startups. But I already mentioned the 2 startups that they are not from here, from Pará, but we have cooperation with them to develop issues that they are interesting also in aspect of algorithms and optimization.
That's awesome. That's really great. I know that when it comes to encouraging domestic startups, we've seen that institutes as well as universities have played a very foundational role to support as well as encourage the development. So that's really great to hear. I'd love to know more about, do you have insight into the funding landscape for quantum in Brazil? Are there specific national or regional programs that are driving quantum research and commercialization by providing financial support?
So I can start. Our funding comes mainly from national agencies, funding agencies like CNPq, CAPES, FINEP, and a few others local funding agencies like linked to the states where you do your research. There is that big funding program that Hamilton Mendes told at the beginning. So he mentioned the $1 billion for the next 10 years. So we are eager to receive for these projects really to start and the money come flowing. This will be really a very strong leverage to the development of quantum technologies in Brazil, not only quantum computing, but also quantum communication, quantum sensing, and all those technology called quantum 2.0. So this for sure will be the main source of funding for the next years. For now, we have to rely on those agencies, and sometimes a few companies also funds research and development here in Brazil. I mentioned one like Petrobras, that is a company, a state company, but it funds really important projects on quantum technology.
Fantastic.
Yes, I think the answer of Renato is complete. Here in Brazil, essentially funding is being through programs like CNPq, thematic calls, PINEP, Innovations Grant, and regional foundations. And some companies offer that invest in research, offer cooperation and support to that. It's essentially it.
Well, that's awesome. Quantum is one of those technologies that's really a long-term game, and so it needs long-term funding. So it's always great to hear that there are multiple avenues where not only universities and academia, but also enterprise has support for that. So I have another question for each of you. I'd love to hear both of your perspectives. If we are looking ahead, let's say roughly 5 to 10 years, what do you see as the biggest challenges for Brazil's quantum ecosystem, and how would you suggest they be overcome?
So I can start. That's a very difficult question. It's really hard to make the diagnosis of the main problems that we have here. One of them is the lack of investment, but let us move on to other problems. I think also the lack of strong collaboration. There is collaboration, but it must be increased. So quantum technology is really hard and involves very different technologies. So you have to develop software, you have to develop hardware, you have to develop applications, you have to develop a quantum internet. So if you develop quantum communications, it is not going to be that useful. You need the quantum internet to make it useful and to spread the entanglement across the country, across the world. So it needs this kind of integration that it is missing a little bit here in Brazil. For the next years, if the institute, if the different researchers work in an integrated way, I think that we can overcome our major difficulties and we can overcome the lack of investment.
Absolutely.
I completely agree with Renato. I think if you look in ahead to 5-10 years, Brazil, I already mentioned, has a lot of challenges, but also the opportunities. So I think the main challenge will be scaling from academy prototypes to operational systems, ensuring continuous investment and training in the right qualified workforce here. That's it. We need continued investment to improve our development in this area.
Absolutely. And that makes sense. I think, again, funding is a constraint for many countries worldwide. So with that, I'd like to thank each of you so much for this discussion on Brazil's strategy and how science and industry are working together. What we've heard really gives us a clear picture of how this quantum landscape is beginning to take shape, from not only the network of universities and research centers, but also to emerging collaborations that bring together academia, government, and industry. It's great to see that there's complementary expertise building this ecosystem where researchers are advancing quantum communication networks, they're developing hybrid quantum classical architectures for data-intensive industries, and also exploring how AI can enhance the resilience of these systems. So thank you both again. This has been a great session. With that said, we'd love to now turn to the Startup Showcase, where we'll see how some of these ideas are already starting to come to life through Brazil's emerging quantum ventures. I'm pleased to invite Lucas Martins, the CTO of Cryptus, and Marcos Cesar de Oliveira, the co-founder at Quati. So Lucas, you're up first, and welcome.
Thank you, Sierra. Thanks for the invite. I have a presentation here, so I will share my screen and start from the right. Just a second. Okay, I believe you can see my screen. I brought a presentation to talk about a bit what Cryptus is doing related to quantum technologies. My presentation is about quantum threats in a pre-quantum world. Okay. Just to present myself, my name is Lucas Martins. I'm CTO at Cryptus. And Cryptus is a Brazilian company that develops cybersecurity services and products. And it has today a subsidiary in Switzerland that is responsible for exporting our technologies and services around the world. You can see a few flags in the bottom of the presentation. These are some of the countries that Cryptos is already exporting technologies and services in cybersecurity and cryptography. Our key offerings are secure communications, cyber defense, cybersecurity, data protection, managed security services, PKI, and cryptography. We work with security and our teams related to that. Usually we have products and services for the government, for other business, and also for the defense, for Brazilian defense and other countries' defense organizations. And we already have 20 years in the market, sell for more than 25 blue chips clients, and have a relationship with 20 countries already that can use our products and services. About the quantum computing, this slide talks about how it impacts our area, the security and cryptography solutions. Just a brief introduction. I believe how people here already know a bit about the quantum computing, but it's a type of computer that use quantum phenomena, physical phenomena, to process certain classes of problems exponentially faster than classical computers. And is highlighted these certain classes of problems because the first algorithm developed for a quantum computer was to break cryptography, right? So Cryptos sells cryptography, so we are hugely affected by quantum computers, right? Because here I have some examples. We have some types of cryptography that we use. Just there is one that is called symmetric cryptography. This is the standard way of thinking of cryptography. You have a key and you encrypt your data with this key. And the person that you want to send encrypt data has the same key as you. But this type of cryptography, they are affected by quantum computing, but not so much as the other one that I will talk about. The symmetric cryptography, all algorithms are affected by the Grover's algorithm that can be used to half the security level of this type of cryptography. But this is not a huge problem because you can solve this only using the double size keys, right? So you just have to increase your key size and all is good. However, there is another type of cryptography that's called public key cryptography. And unfortunately, this type of cryptography is completely broken by quantum computers, right? The algorithm, the Shor's algorithm, is the algorithm used to break the cryptography. It already exists. We already know how to do that. We just don't have the quantum computer to run this algorithm, right? But also we have it, the cryptography is done. Of course, there are many challenges with implementing this algorithm that are aligned to the challenges of having a quantum computer. But once we have that, we can consider that public key cryptography is broken. And this has a huge impact on security because public key cryptography is widely used to protect all types of communication on the internet, okay? Even if the symmetric cryptography is safe, most of the solutions use public key cryptography to protect the key distribution of symmetric keys. So what's at the risk, right? I like this phrase because sometimes we forget that cryptography is the invisible foundation that makes all digital business possible. If you think about that, the financial system, e-commerce, social network, digital commerce, contracts, and all that runs in the internet or in the clouds, they depend strongly on cryptography. They are not viable if you don't have a secure way for communication with cryptography, right? So if you think about that, we don't do anything about quantum computing to protect ourselves against it, all this business will not exist more. and this will be really disastrous for the society, right? So, and the question is when we have to worry about that, because the quantum computing is always in the future, we say, right? But we see that as the years go, more and more investments is done in quantum computing. So we expect that we are getting there, right? We are seeing that we are getting there. So we say that we have to be concerned today. And moreover, because there is a type of attack that is called store now, decrypt later. There are some type of information that must be classified as confidential for many years, right? In Brazil, for example, the government can classify some information for 100 years. And if the quantum computer is about 10 years in the future, an adversary can store the informations that are encrypted today with classical encryption today. And in 10 years, when they have the decrypted computer, they can decrypt this data. And it has value, right? Because it should be a secret for 100 years. So this is a main concern today for governments or big business that want have this type of information, that it must be secure for long periods. Then we talk about what we are doing to solve this type of problem. Again, the classical cryptography is the one that will be break by the quantum computers, mainly the public key cryptography, as I said before. So what we have today, we already have solution for that, for cryptography, that's called post-quantum cryptography. The post-quantum cryptography is a type of cryptography that can run on classical computers, so it doesn't depend on quantum computers, but it's resilient against quantum computers. There is no algorithms that break these algorithms. So all the cryptography community is going towards this type of algorithms, and NIST has published the standard for this type of algorithm in the end of last year, and established that the government have a deadline to migrate to post-quantum algorithms until 2025. And finally, you also have another type of cryptography, that is the quantum cryptography. This one uses quantum effects, quantum phenomena, to implement cryptography. So it doesn't depend on a quantum computer, okay? But it runs with quantum phenomena. The main example here is quantum communication, or QKD, or maybe the quantum true random number generators, right? This is the type of technology that doesn't depend on quantum computers, but are used in cryptography. However, as some already said, it depends on investment in infrastructure and research to be widely adopted. It's already a technology that exists. You can find some companies selling solutions for quantum key distribution, for example, but again, it depends on infrastructure to be widely used. And what Cryptos is doing about that, what Cryptos have is, there are two lines of products and solutions that we have. The first one is the Kinetic HSM. This is a hardware security model used to protect cryptographic keys. It's a standard, a product that is a market standard, right? A lot of type of business already use this type of solution, like financial systems or public key infrastructures for digital identification of people. Use this type of hardware to generate and protect keys. Cryptos has this product, and it certified its implementation of post-quantum algorithms following the FIPS 104-3 level 3 certification. This is a NIST standard for post-quantum algorithms, and it is providing this solution, these algorithms already. Okay. It can be used in multiple use cases, and I will not go through all of them, but payment, PKI, and identity-based digital identity is some of them. And the other line of products that we have related to these problems is the Brublan. Brublan is an ultra-secure cryptography ecosystem. It provides file and network encryptors that already supports post-quantum algorithms and also supports one-time pad encryption. Just a brief explanation. One-time pad encryption is a type of cryptography that is mathematically proven to be unbreakable. However, it requires a huge amounts of key material that are generated by a true random number generator. It must be these keys must be distributed manually. You can send it via the internet. You have to transfer it manually to the places you have to use it. And once you use the key, you have to destroy it. So there's a lot of problems related to one-time pads. And cryptos solve these problems, make it easier to generate, distribute, and use these keys. One example of that is the ultra-fast true random number generator. This is the device in the top of the screen that is capable of generating petabytes of true random numbers to be used like in a network encryptor with one-time encryption. The point here is that the quantum key distribution is the holy grail for one-time pad solutions, because quantum key distribution allows you to generate keys and distribute them via an optical network. So you solve the issue of generating the key and having to distribute it manually and physically, presentially, right? You can have and distribute your keys via this network. And for OTP, this is a real solution for usability. Okay, so Cryptos is looking forward to make partnership with institutions or other business that are developing QKD to integrate it in our products and have a real solution that is already, all the solutions we have here are already being used by the Brazil and other countries. So we want to integrate it in this solution in a product that is already well established in the market and provide a real use case for quantum key distribution with network encryptors and file encryptors. Finally, the last slide here, talk about a bit about the Brazilian initiatives on quantum world. Most of it already was talked about by the other peers, but I think there is one that was not talked about. This is the Brazilian public key infrastructure. Brazil has a PKI that's controlled by the government. It's planning to be PQC ready in 2027. This may affect around 60 billion signatures per year because this PKI is used in the financial system of the central bank in Brazil. So it has a huge impact and maybe will be the first of use cases with a huge number of signatures per year. We also have the MCTI that we already talked about. They are bringing the first quantum computer in Brazil and also are building the quantum lab to develop quantum superconductors for quantum computers. In the defense, Cryptos have worked with them in 2021 to deliver the first PQC devices. So they are early adopters of post-quantum. We also help them develop PQC custom libraries. And today we are working on a PQC implementation for satellite implementation, together with Visiona. Visiona is developing a satellite, and Cryptos is working in the cryptography that will run on this satellite, and it includes PQC, data protection, and finally we have IMI, that is an institution from the defense they are developing quantum computers and QKD research. And finally, the Senai Cimatec, they are mentioned already here in this conference. They became a quantum computer center, and they are referenced in Brazil for that, and are providing a lot of research on the area. CPQD is offering a testbed for quantum integration. FINET and FAPESP are funding a lot of quantum and PQC research, and we have a lot of universities that are doing research on the area too. I put 3 here: USP, Unicamp, and UFSC. But there are a lot of universities in Brazil that are doing the researches in their area. So that's it for my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucas, so much for sharing. Also very excited to hear about the PKI-PQC going live by 2027. I know that must be a very large undertaking. Thank you again. And for our next presenter, I'd like to go ahead and welcome you, Marcos Cesar de Oliveira, the co-founder of Quati. Looking forward to seeing your presentation.
Okay, so let me share my slides. So, I want to thank you all again just for inviting me and inviting Quati to this very interesting meeting. So I hope that you can see my slide already.
Yes, looks good.
Yep. Okay. So again, thank you very much for the invitation, and we are going to talk about what Quati is doing at the moment, and what we want to do in the future. And we think that perhaps quantum computing can help us to make it a better world in general. So for you that don't know, Quati is the Brazilian name for the Quati animal, and this is our symbol, and of course is related to the quantum business. So Quati is mainly based in Brazil, and we are dedicating to advance the field in quantum computing and also quantum information in general. Our mission is to pioneer and promote the adoption of quantum computing technologies. For that, we are engaged in many capacitation and teaching opportunities for the business, and also for inside universities as well. But also we are developing technologies related to some problems that I will talk about in a minute. So how we do that? Through cutting-edge research and practical applications, we aim to harness the power of quantum computation for the betterment of society and advancement of scientific knowledge. So this is our motto. So we think that this is quite important for our living in this world. So the fronts that we are developing we are deeply committed to harnessing hybrid quantum and classical methods to tackle key sustainability challenges, such as optimization in energy research, and to improve the efficiency and reduce the environmental impact, development of hybrid quantum and classical algorithm for the agricultural practices in a way for it to be sustainable, and also the exploration of bio-inspired sensor whenever this is possible for optimizing research usage, and the contribution to global efforts in reducing environmental degradation. So one point that we're going to tackle for this presentation is the climate change, and so why we are interested in climate change. Climate change can cause a variety of disasters, such as extreme weather events and slow onset changes and other climatic hazards. So this includes many of things that are seen in the world. So, for example, cyclones, droughts, heat waves, wildfires, floods, which is a central point that we consider, and also storms. So climate change is increasing we know that, and so the frequency and the intensity of storms and more than 90% of natural disasters are related to the weather, water change that we are seeing right now. Okay, so just for you to see, so we are considering, for example, our our country. So in Brazil, for example, the setup of natural disaster, or disaster related to the climate, they are mainly focused, and our main problem is flood, but we also have problems with wildfire, drought, storms, and also landslide, and many others. And of course, if you change the location, if you change the country, mostly you will see some different perspectives of this distribution here. But in Brazil and South America in general, but also many countries in the south of the world, they are related to floods. So this is not us only that we are interested in this kind of problem. So for example, there are people in Malaysia that related to us through the Open Quantum Institute, and we actually we collaborated in some way with them, because they are also interested in the same problem. But for our country, the central problem is flooding. And so, for example, we have seen in a few years ago extreme flooding in Rio Grande do Sul, which is the most southern state in Brazil. So this was, of course, quite surprising for our country. We never saw in the recent years this kind of flood, but very suddenly this occurred, and of course it caused many problems for people, for everybody that lived in the southern states. We also have problems with wildfires. So for example, in São Paulo state, which is the richest in Brazil, we had this problem a few years, just a couple of years ago, like last year and the previous year. Normally, this occurs during our winter time, which occurs in the middle of the year, like July and August. And so this is actually a quite relevant problem for the economy, because it occurs, of course, it's an accident, so no one prevents is prevented about this kind of problem. But also we would like some way to make our best to prevent this kind of hazards. So how do we tackle this kind of problem? So our approach focuses in quantum computing and also quantum machine learning to develop innovative solutions, such as we want to enhance climate modeling. So for that, we use quantum algorithms to improve the accuracy of those climate models available, also enabling better predictions of extreme weather events and also their impacts. We also want to optimize research management by applying quantum optimization techniques to efficiently allocate resources, minimizing waste, and maximizing sustainability in agriculture and urban planning. So how this is possible? By acting in a very fast way to to deal with this disaster, which is called the disaster response and recovery. So we develop quantum enhanced simulations to plan and execute more effective emergency responses during natural disasters. So the best way to do that is by monitoring and mitigating environmental impact by using quantum sensing technologies, or even classical sensing technologies added by quantum algorithm to monitor ecosystems in real time. So with that, we want to help to detect the changes in a fast way. This is important, and inform the conservation efforts. So, of course, this is quite relevant. We are talking about disaster, but also we want to forecast, situations when you have changes in a city, for example, when you, what is the impact by building a certain city inside a certain area in the country, or by what is the situation when you have crops rotation in a certain area. So how can you actually monitor and sense the weather and to deliver best solutions, for mitigating this impact? So, of course, this is quite important, not only for cities, but also for the agriculture industry in general. Okay, so our first action, which is predicting floods with quantum machine learning, in this project, we aim to train an artificial neural network to predict these abrupt climate changes. And for that, we use both traditional, meaning classical machine learning, and also quantum machine learning, and whatever gives the best result. We want to compare all those possibilities, all those methods, and to deliver to the client the best results, to act fast. So the initiative seeks to meet the needs of the population in high-risk areas through partnership with public and private. So this is quite important, because this covers many areas of sustainability. So to create, for example, sustainable cities and communities, we have a climate action, and with that, we reduce, for example, accidents related to weather in those big cities. And of course, we reduce in a certain way, not directly, but indirectly, the poverty in those cities. We do have many other possibilities here. And this doesn't cover all the possibilities of this strategy. So this strategy, it follows like that. So we use so we actually use some sensors. Those are classical sensors that are, made by one partner. So this is PET. This is an industry, is a company here in Brazil as well. So this is a low-cost sensor. So this is quite important, because we want to distribute this in a certain area, and to monitor the microclimate changes in this area. So why we don't use satellites? So satellites, they are there. So we do have in Brazil very good coverage of satellites for covering weather, but they don't, cover these microclimate changes, which can be abrupt, very, very sudden changes. And this doesn't cover, it's not really covered by those satellites. So it does take time to process this information and to prevent some accidents. So what we want to do is to have those sensors distributed around the city. So for example, in São Carlos, which is a city, a small city here in Brazil, this is occurring right now. So those sensors are distributed there. I will not going to show you any details for proprietary reason, but those sensors, they are distributed around the area of the city, and they can actually be used for collecting data, many data related to weather, be the CO level or the temperature, even the humidity, whatever. So everything that's important for this collection and prevention of this, and for this change of climate. And this data is, of course, processed by machine learning and neural networks. So we employ, as I mentioned before, we do employ classical hybrid system, employing classical and quantum machine learning to give the best result in a fast way. So what we do, we are facing for example, in city, particularly in the city, São Carlos, they had a problem a few years ago as well of flood. So in the city, they faced frequent heavy rains that lead to floods and inundation, which causes, of course, damage to infrastructure and put the population at risk. So the solution is to implement this hybrid neural network, combining traditional, which means classical, and quantum techniques, along with meteorological sensors, which are distributed in the city, which is São Carlos. And they capture real-time data. This is important, of course, if you want to prevent an accident like that. So you have to collect all the time and analyze the time series of this and to prevent sudden changes of the weather situation in that area. So we do we predict climatic changes, and with great accuracy and with some time, to tell people that they are, at risk. So as I mentioned, I cannot show you the details due to proprietary reasons, but this is actually quite interesting. And the idea here is to provide a service that people access, and they do have, they can monitor the specific area which they are interested, of course, attached to the distribution of those low-cost sensors. We do have some challenges here, I have to say. So the challenges are related to the Brazilian or the Brazil environment in general. So what is the role of the government and the global community? Of course, this problem that we are attacking here is quite important for Brazil in general. So the Brazilian government, be it for the federal government or the São Paulo government, they are, of course, interested in this kind of problem solution. And we actually want them to be involved at this at some time. So, for example, Unicamp here, which is the university where I am, it's quite interested in this kind of sustainable and also prevention of floods in general. So, but also we have to say that what is the role? What does the world expect from Brazil in addressing this climate change? So right now we are in the center of this COP30, and so of course everybody's talking about this kind of subject. So maybe we can pioneer the quantum technologies and help the world to prevent those climate hazards. So we still have limited access to the necessary resources and infrastructure to fully engage cutting-edge research and technology development, even though the previous people that talked before me, they talked about some initiatives. We do know that, as was mentioned, that we need a serious investment, something very large, not just for a few years, but for decades, And that investment is needed right now, be it for developing the quantum computer, a Brazilian quantum computer, or be it to apply those technologies such as ours, which we don't develop specifically the hardware, we do develop the software, but we are, keen to see a Brazilian quantum computer and to apply all those technologies that we are developing here. We do need, for example, right now, a greater investment, not just our company, but also Brazil in general, for really tackling those problems in a very effective way. Also to focus on the international collaboration and the policy support. So one point that I leave for you is how can we bridge the gap between developed countries and developing nations, accessing and contributing to innovations that could shape our collective future. So this is our purpose. So we hope that Kwati can help somehow in this future. And I think that those questions are quite important, even though we are talking about high technology here and very effective way of developing algorithms. We know that those problems that are related to our day-by-day lives in the world, they are quite important, and this is the motto and the important thing that Kwati looks after. So with that, I present our team. So we are composed by 3 colleagues working in different places, but it's me, Marco César de Oliveira, Gustavo Arruda, Felipe Fanchini, and we have a very small team of students, which are our junior researchers, which is Guilherme Peixe and Lucas Rattighieri, where they are developing those algorithms and really being the people behind of those results that I didn't show you for proprietary reasons. So with that, I stop my talk, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Marcos. That was an incredible presentation. Really excited to hear what your organization is up to. I especially think it's great that you're applying quantum technologies to something such as flood prediction and sustainable city planning. I think it really goes far in showing how this technology can have very real, very sustainable societal impact. So thank you again to both of our presenters. That was wonderful to learn more about what's happening in Brazil. And now we will turn to the final panel of this session, which will focus on the people who ultimately make any ecosystem possible, which is the workforce. This discussion will explore the current state and future of quantum skills, workforce development, and talent pipelines in Brazil. So I'm delighted to welcome our speakers. We have 2 speakers today. We have Gustavo, an associate professor from Unicamp, and Alexander, a deputy coordinator at the Center of Competence in Quantum Technologies. So welcome to both of you.
Thank you. Shall we start by just pointing out that it's a great pleasure to be at this colloquium, to this workshop. I think this is coming up as a result of a long time effort of our community in setting up a quantum initiative in Brazil. And I must say we are all very excited to hear Hamilton mentioning that Brazil is indeed putting forward this long-standing plan to fund both academic startups and the whole infrastructure that should enable quantum technologies in Brazil. So this is news for everyone, actually, right? It's having someone from the ministry confirming that this is really going forward in a public workshop. I think this tells us a lot that indeed things have been working out on the funding side. That's the fundamental step, right? To put forth any sort of advanced quantum technology program on the ground. So I was asked to talk about quantum workforce, right? So shall we, you prefer to go through the questions, Sierra, or should we mention something briefly and then you go to the questions? How you prefer to organize this?
Yeah, I'd love to start with the questions.
Okay.
I know I have a list here. I don't think we're going to have time for all of them, but I'd love to get into the questions to learn more about how workforce is developing in Brazil. And so starting out, I have a question for both of you, which is, how are Brazilian universities integrating quantum science and engineering into their curriculum to prepare the next generation of quantum professionals?
Do you want to start, Alicia? Or?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about it. Well, let me first start also by thanking you, Sierra, for the invitation, for the opportunity to talk about the work that we are doing here in Brazil. So here at Senai Cimatec, just a brief introduction. We have built a competence center for quantum technologies, which is a result of funding from the Ministério of Science, Technology, and Innovation through Embrapi. The idea of this center is to do not only research, but transfer knowledge to the productive sector, to industry, to companies, to startups, to help connect universities and academia and to applied problems and build this ecosystem, this quantum workforce, and start connecting with other areas of knowledge. So here, although we are in a very young initiative, we started basically last year from zero. So we started doing headhunting, let's say, and trying to attract and bring back professionals, including engineers from abroad, to try to build a specialized team to tackle this challenge. We have now over 80 researchers, from physicists, theoretical and experimental theorists, engineers from all different expertises, and computer scientists, mathematicians. We even have economists doing research on market and opportunities in the quantum sector. And we have our mission is to basically start developing and preparing Brazil for this revolution, this changing in technology paradigm, and transfer this knowledge from academia and basically physics to all other sciences and areas of expertise. But we are focused not only on training experts, we are also helping transfer knowledge and prepare professionals from all areas, because we believe all professionals will be impacted by this technology somehow. So we are building what would be equivalent to a master's program in the US, like a first approach, a first contact, let's say, with these technologies for experts and non-experts. And for the non-experts, we are focusing on executives. So people that will have to work on the business side of quantum technologies. So we have already developed 2 programs for this master's program. Right now, we had already a presential class last year, and that was a big success. We formed the first quantum technology master's program in Brazil, focused on quantum technologies. Of course, we have many academic postgraduate programs, but we try to do a multidisciplinary course, and we already hired the best students, and we transformed this program into an online course that is available for free for the whole country. We had over 1,000 people signing up for this course. We couldn't accommodate all these people, so now we have about 200 people taking the course. I believe we split them into different classes, one for quantum communication and the other one for quantum computing. And we are about to launch the new course for executives, so people that will have to look into the business side. At the same time, we are training all the professionals that are not only working here, but also collaborating with us. We have formed already a big network of collaborators. We have collaborators about 10 institutions now in Brazil, research institutions that are partners, and about 6 or 7 international. We are doing research mostly on quantum communication. We are developing technology as well. So we have several teams working on different areas. We have people working on the theory of quantum communication and quantum cryptography, on experiments, building a test bed for testing protocols and components and different architectures. We have working on algorithm design and implementation, and also hardware development. It's in our roadmap to have the first prototype of a point-to-point CV QKD system, which is a particular technology that uses the ondulatory quantum behavior of light, which is compatible with current optical telecommunication technology and components, which makes it very cost effective and is also easily integratable with existing optical communication infrastructure, like fiber optics. So we are excited to be part of this project. And we have in our roadmap also free space communication. So not only doing communication over fiber optics, but also over the air. We are partnering with the quantum network they are building in Rio de Janeiro, and we are thinking about developing a quantum network also here in Salvador, Bahia. And from this on, we are thinking about connecting with the aerospace engineers here at Senai Cimatec to have a project on quantum communication over satellites. So it's also in our roadmap. This is going to be a more ambitious initiative, of course, but we believe it's central to the kind of problems that Professor Abelém mentioned in the beginning of the workshop, because and Professor Renato Portugal as well, that we are going to need to connect the different initiatives that are being implemented in Brazil, and that's probably going to be that's going to have to happen via satellite in order to build a quantum internet someday. So we are taking on this challenge as well. Cimatec is in charge of the aerospace park of Bahia in Brazil. It was inaugurated last year as well by President Lula. So we are excited to have all these opportunities, and at the same time, we are also attracting and developing startups. So we have attracted over 50 startups at the time. We are helping them, new entrepreneurs, come up with new ideas that make sense for the quantum sector. We help them develop the idea and transform them into a project. Once they have these mature, we help them file the idea or formalize the idea into a project and support them with funding if they are selected. They work together with our researchers to make sure that they develop something meaningful and impactful. And at the same time, they help the project somehow and expanding the impact of the research and the problems that we are solving.
Yeah, I would like to, perhaps I would take a step back from Alexandre's perspective and just make a little bit of analysis of the whole scenario. I think the picture of quantum technology in Brazil is sort of a striking duality, if you like. You know, on the one hand, our nation has demonstrated substantial academic strength in various sectors of quantum technologies. Brazil, if you look at publication data, ranks roughly at 24th position worldwide, side by side with nations like Australia and Canada in scientific production. The research in the country has been growing steadily, including different regions. Northeast, North, Southeast has been the usual place for this to happen, but it has been expanded to other regions, which is very good. I think a discussion from Alexandre is an excellent example of this growth. And nearly all quantum techniques that have been explored worldwide are currently being mastered by research groups in Brazil. But the scientific achievement, however, really faces a challenge, right, in what concerns commercialization and workforce absorption. I think Abelém, Antonio mentioned a few of the problems in commercialization, but I would like to highlight the workforce absorption issue. So the primary issue is rather clear. So we have the problem of absorbing this very skilled human capital outside academia. So Alexandre just exemplified with their effort in training these resources, right? But we do have a challenge in keeping them in Brazil. So just to have a picture of the numbers in Brazil. So I grabbed these numbers from the Ministry of Science database. On the federal level, if you look at STEMs, we currently have about 11,000 STEM area master and PhD fellowships ongoing every year in Brazil. So, of course, we cannot absorb all this in universities, right? This workforce got to find somewhere else to work. Just in the state of São Paulo, if you look at the São Paulo State Research Foundation, we currently have about 2,300 graduate students being funded in STEM areas. So while we are producing these excellent researchers, they easily find jobs abroad, outside Brazil, both in academia and companies. If you look at the major quantum job database, job post database, like the quantumconsortium.org, there are none announcement of quantum jobs in Brazil. If you contrast to the US, for example, just in 2025, last time I checked, I think it was March 2025, there were about 400 online job posts at the quantumconsortium.org. And this is not only restricted to Brazil, it's actually across the entire Latin American region. And this includes Argentina, Chile, Colombia, and even Mexico, right? So I think the examples we've seen today, like Cryptos and Quachi, are really exceptions to this regional trend. I mean, they're really leading this effort in trying to build a problem-oriented company approach that will eventually demand for these jobs, for the skilled researchers to tackle their problems. So, you know, this massive gap is rooted in structural issues. Like there's a lack, up to now, there was a complete lack of a national project with defined priorities, goals, tasks. We are just seeing this coming up this year, perhaps. So there's also a very strong problem identified as a cultural risk aversion in Brazil from companies, from industry. And this perhaps roots in the 10% net interest rate that the central bank sets. It's much easier just to put your money there and get a 10% interest rate revenue than risking in quantum workforce or quantum science development. So it's rather common that we would traditionally prefer to purchase already developed technology than to invest in local deep tech research that there are many risks involved, right? So as we pivot the workforce development, our focus must shift in simply producing, not only producing university professors, but rather cultivating this entrepreneurial mindset that have been discussed here by Cryptus and Quachi. So just to know that Brazil has taken this risk in other tech areas. Just to give an example from Campinas, from my home institution, University of Campinas catalogs what they call the Unicamp daughters. These are companies that are run or funded by previous students, by former students, by alumni of the university. We currently have 1,500 of those companies. They generate 35,000 jobs, direct jobs, and the revenue is over $4 billion a year. So only on the revenue side, if you consider the tax paid by these companies, they completely cover all the costs that the university takes from the government. So this is really a proven, that's a working strategy, right? So on the quantum side, I think we must recognize that quantum work is really multidisciplinary. It requires engineers, physicists, perhaps chemists, mathematicians, and all the STEM players that could identify the key aspects that Brazil must focus on. So, and this does not include only university research, right? We also need technicians. We also need perhaps human science researchers to understand how this will affect society and other things. So just to give in one example as well, a data set. So if you look at 2002, Brazil had, if you look at the percentage of business publications that had co-authorship with academia, in 22, Brazil had about 50%. So 50% of all business-led publications had co-authors from universities. Brazil made a huge effort in boosting this number. In 2022, we topped 85%. So this means that from the Brazilian industry, there's a lot of communication already with academia. But the number of researchers in industry is still very little. So the Brazilian industry, as I pointed before, did not mature to absorb this research technical staff into their bodies, but rather they keep only collaborating with universities. So ultimately, I think the success of Brazilian quantum ecosystem will certainly depend on this quantum national strategy that gives focus and targets and priorities. There will be need for public R&D, so I hope this $1 billion will be getting to our pocket soon so that we can deliver these results. And also be in close contact with not only established companies like Renato Portugal mentioned, this outstanding efforts by Petrobras, which is just probably one of the world's largest oil companies, already diving into this, but also small companies like Quachi and Cryptus. So yeah, that's my take on this as a general perspective for this quantum workforce problem.
Thank you. Very informative. I also really appreciate the data. Two things that came out of both of the discussions from both of you. So one, Alexandra, you mentioned quite a few different programs that are available at different levels to students and other professionals. You mentioned also that you're looking to or they're looking to develop programs for business executives, which is really great, as well as to get aerospace engineers involved. So it's always really important to see that cross-domain interaction. What I did want to kind of follow up with, Gustavo, you also mentioned that we do need technicians. We need many other people in order to build this workforce. So I have almost two questions for both of you, and feel free to answer whichever one you feel most comfortable with. But one, how do you encourage more technicians and more even non-technologists to get involved in quantum? Are there any sort of initiatives in place that inspire maybe public awareness? And then the second part I really wanted to ask is, Gustavo, you mentioned that there's this need to cultivate entrepreneurial spirit and in that way be able to retain some of those graduates within Brazil. I'd love to know if there are any other strategies that you think would address this talent gap that would retain graduates as well as attract international experts.
Okay, yeah, these are excellent questions. Just let me target around the technician, and then me and Alexandre can complement on the other side. So I think one issue is Brazilian academia has found its place in the context of quantum techs of being able to deliver results in the highest standard journals across the world. So this has been sort of a focus, which is good academically, but sometimes the agenda that is followed by the community in order to pursue this high impact publications is not the agenda that would solve the problems that our industry can handle and is interested in. So I think there's sort of a gap between what we as scientists are targeting at and what industry needs. And to overcome this, to reduce this gap, I think we need funding programs that are not only looking at getting papers published in Nature or Science, but rather see, okay, what are the tech challenges and how can we fund these projects as technological development programs rather than top-notch scientists. And of course, they eventually interbreed, right? They connect. But I think at the moment, you look at the funding scenario, and it's far more often you're going to find funding for doing top-notch, high-impact research, but very little funding to do technological development. And that's the niche where you really put demand for technicians and create opportunities for them to join. But I would like, Alexandre is coming from Senai Cimatec, right? Senai is an institution built by the industry to serve the industry. So it's very nice to see an institution like that jumping on board because they understand, they talk, they communicate with industry much better than the usual funding agencies that are used to fund pure and basic science. So I think we are in a sweet spot where we call the attention to the problem, and institutions like Senai are really interested in asking what do we need from the technician side and how we bridge this gap between industry problems and high standard academic research. So that's one way to look into that. You're mute, Alexandre.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I guess I can complement what Gustavo just said, and thanks for bringing all those points, Gustavo, which are all very important. We have a massive challenge here in Brazil, both from academia and from the industry side, that I believe we are all been trying to solve this for a long time. And we are seeing slow changes, I believe, but we need, like Gustavo said, a more concrete plan with more concrete actions and fundings opportunities, because this is going to be a long-term project, I hope. On that front, the investment that we received from MRP to build the Competence Center in Quantum Technologies was probably the first large investment in quantum technologies, thinking about innovation and development, right? We have a history of very bright scientists who trained us in universities, and we export bright minds to the world. We still do that, like Gustavo mentioned. And this is good, but for us it's also bad because we need them. We need our bright Brazilians to stay in Brazil and to help Brazil evolve. And I think that we are trying to do this. We managed to repatriate some of our fellows. Our chief engineer came back from Sweden. He was working for Ericsson, and now he's in charge of our prototype development. And slowly, people are understanding what we are trying to do, and we are attracting the help of the Brazilian community as well, the scientists, the entrepreneurs. Everybody is. We really are making an effort to talk to everybody. So answering Sierra's question, how do we connect to technicians? Well, I believe we can do focused programs which we are already doing here at Senai Cimatec, which I'll tell you more in a little bit. But maybe before that, we need to connect with society. So we are really trying to do a complementary work to academia by talking to everyone. Like Gustavo was saying, our focus is not to publish. Well, we would love to publish on Nature and Science as well, but that's not the main focus. We are trying to make an impact on Brazilian society by building an ecosystem, by attracting people to this new technology, by helping them be curious about it and try to get involved and join one of our events. We organize all sorts of events for all sorts of people, from people that don't know anything, where we try to do outreach and explain to them the importance of this new technology, the impact that it can have in our future. But we also talk to the government, to high executives. We had ministers of science and technology visiting, of the defense, to understand the impact that that quantum technology could help in that could have in the security of our country, the digital security. We are bringing executives from abroad that are already successful in building companies to talk to us and to talk to the Brazilian community. We are bringing Nobel Prize laureates. Like this next week, we are receiving Serge Haroche from Paris, who is a Nobel laureate in physics from 2012. We are bringing people from Evolution Q, which is a startup in Canada, very successful in quantum communication and cryptography, in December. And we had last month the CEO of Qureka, which is a startup in Europe, who is also helping build an ecosystem. So we're trying to connect in all fronts with everybody. And we hope that with that effort, people will come and seek this information and be curious. Here at Senai Cimatec, we have a history of training technicians and professionals. Senai, which stands for National Service for Industrial Training, is an institution that was founded in the 40s and has trained over 70 million Brazilians. So it has a major impact in Brazilian society. And Cimatec is like a research R&D, an R&D center that was built by industry and tries to help industry thrive. And they had a bet on quantum technologies since 2020 by building a small group on quantum computing that slowly started to develop and attract more and more people. And as I told you before, now we are counting everybody. We are getting close to 100 people working on the competence center at Queen. And our center is named Queen, which stands for Quantum Industrial Innovation. So we have not only the master's program that I told you before about, but we are also building many different types of training programs. We have even a team that travels Brazil talking about quantum technologies, doing hands-on courses. We have access to a classical supercomputer that was optimized to emulate and simulate quantum circuits. So people that can use them as a first experience to program quantum circuits and quantum algorithms. We use these to do research, of course, but we also use these for teaching, for giving people a more hands-on experience when learning the technology. we are thinking about having events also even at schools to try to already connect with the young mind. And we believe that by all these different approaches, we will be able to impact people. Gathering all our teaching initiatives, we have certified, let's say, over 1,500 people already. And the experience that we are having is that people are very grateful that we are explaining things that are highly technical at a level that they can understand. It's a huge challenge. And I believe Gustavo knows this as well, because we as physicists, we are used to talk to physicists that are highly trained and know what we are talking about. But when we want to connect with different people, society that don't know anything about quantum physics is a big challenge. So I think the solution will come from the society understanding how impactful this technology can be, and how important it is for our development as a modern nation.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think this is really, really important, especially this part about connecting directly with society and building that curiosity alongside the technical capacity. That's really how ecosystems grow and develop. Thank you both for this panel. This has been really informative and really, really valuable in terms of understanding the programs that are out there that are available in Brazil, as well as what are the challenges and what are the potential strategies for moving forward. So thank you once again. I'd love to just take a moment to kind of wrap up this entire episode, because I feel like we've heard a lot of really good information that really painted this picture of Brazil's quantum ecosystem as something that's being actively built through collaboration between ministries, between research centers, startups, universities, etc. So through the original vision presented by Hamilton, as this quantum as a state policy that's connecting science, industry, and diplomacy, to how research is becoming application, especially through the national cryptographic infrastructure, as well as the quantum machine learning for the predicting floods. These are very important because it connects the technology back to the society. And again, very grateful for this final discussion about how this isn't really possible without people. We need the researchers, the engineers, the students, et cetera, to shape the next decade. So I think if there's a single thread that ran through the discussion today, it's definitely one of quantum being a field of responsibility, in terms of responsibility to prepare, to educate, to collaborate, and to ensure that the next era of technology serves society as a whole. So as we close this session, I just wanted to thank all of our speakers for really showing us how quantum is developing in Brazil, what strategies you're using, what challenges you have, and thank you again for your time. It's been great.
Thank you, Cia, for setting this up. It was a great pleasure to be here, and I just learned a lot from all the other colleagues on the table. So,
yeah, same here. Thank you, Sarah, very much. It's a great opportunity to talk about it and to spread the word that we are doing here, and to hopefully attract more people to help us build something very impactful and meaningful in Brazil.
Yeah, same from
Thank you very much also. Hi, sorry, Lucas.
No.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for participating in today's AI for Good session. We hope you've learnt something new, innovative, and engaging in today's event. We now encourage you to continue the conversation on the live video wall in the neural network. Here you can ask questions, like and comment, share links, complete the poll, connect with interesting profiles, or speak one-on-one using the chat and video function. We invite you to explore the lobby, try the smart matching quiz, visit the virtual exhibits, poster boards, the e-shop, and build your personalized AI for Good program. Let's shape the future of AI for good.